Alright, continuing track fundamentals, part 2, tape 2, part 213, track safety standards, subpart E, track appliances, track related devices, 213, 201 scope, subpart prescribes minimum requirements for track appliances, track related devices, 213, 205 derails. Each derail must be clearly visible. When locked, the position of the derail must be free of lost motion, which would prevent it from performing its intended function. Lockout and tag out. Each derail should be maintained as a function intended: electrical, hand throw, spring switch, sliding hinge, or portable. Each derail should be properly installed with the rail to which is applied. Paragraph D is applicable September 21st, 1999. 213, track safety standards. Subpart F, inspection scope, track inspection, automated inspection, track installed with the concrete ties, inspection switch track crossings, lifting railroad assemblies, other transition devices on movable bridges, inspecting rails, qualified operators, special inspection records. Alright, scope. The subpart prescribes requirements of the frequency manner with the inspection track to detect deviation from the standard prescribed in this part. All tracks should be inspected in accordance with the schedule prescribed in paragraph C with the section person designated in paragraph 213. Each inspection must be made on foot with the riding over the track of the vehicle at speed allowed with the person making inspection visually inspect with the track strength with the compliance with this part. However, the mechanical, electrical, other track inspection devices may be used supplemental visual inspection. If vehicle usually visual inspection speed of the vehicle may not be more than 5 miles an hour passing over the track, crossing, turnout. Otherwise, inspection vehicle speed shall be a sole discretion of the inspector based on track condition inspection requirements. When riding over the track of the vehicle, the inspection will be subject to the following conditions. One inspector of a vehicle may inspect with up to 2 tracks at one time, provided with the inspector visibility remain with obstructed with any of the cause of the second track that is not inserted within more than 30 feet with the track upon with the inspector riding. 2 inspectors, 1 vehicle may inspect the 4 tracks at a time, provided with the inspector visibility remains unobstructed at any cause. Each track may be inspected and centered within 39 feet with the track upon with the inspector is riding. Each main track is usually transverse vehicle with inspected with the foot at least once every 2 weeks, with each siding actually transverse vehicle with inspected 1 foot at least once every month. High density commuter railroad lines where the track does not permit some of the track vehicle with inspection of track centers are 15 foot or less. Requirement of paragraph B3 will not apply. 4. Track inspection records must indicate whether the tracks are transverse by vehicle inspected on foot, outlined in B3 above. Continue. Each track inspection must be made in accordance with the following schedule. To accept in class tracks 1, 2, and 3, the main track sidings we within 3 calendar days between the inspection with the 4 you within 1 week or twice weekly, at least 1 calendar interval between inspection track carry with the passenger train with more than 10 million gross tons of the traffic during the preceding calendar year. Exempted 1 and 2, other main track sidings monthly, at least 20 calendar days interval between inspections. Class track 4 and 5, twice weekly, as at least 1 calendar day intervals between inspections. If the inspections, track inspection, if the person making the inspection finds that the deviation from the requirement of this program, the inspector should immediately initiate remedial action. Note 213.3 except provided with paragraph B of this section is not part of the section will be construed limited inspector discretion involved in the inspection speed and sight distance. General except from the tracks described in the paragraph C with this provision with the section applicable only after July 1st, 2012. Guidance of the paragraph effective July 1st, 2012 requires the automated inspection track constructed with the concrete ties, automated inspection technology available to perform essentially the task necessary to supplemental visual inspection quantity, performance-based specification guaranteeing safeguard behavior, providing objective components, ensure safe train operations. Additional but not limited to new section requirements 213, 234B with the frequency base for the class signs of success for the passenger use 213, 234C with the non-application of the tangent track less than 600 feet. 213, 234 performance name with the automated with the inspection requirement measurement system. 213, 234E with exemption reports to produce the system. 213, 234F record keeping requirements. 213, 234G proceed with the integrity of the data. And 213, 234 training. Except provided in paragraph C with the section, each of the switch turn on track crossing, movable bridge, lift rail with assembly, other transit devices that shall be inspected on foot at least monthly. Each switch class of 3 and 5 with the held position only operating mechanism 1 connecting rod shall be operated with the held position during 1 inspection every 3 months. And in the case of the track that used less than once a month, each switch of the turn-on crossing, movable bridge, lift, rail assembly, other transit device shall be inspected on foot before it is used. Inspection rail 237. There are many changes in the language in this section. There are some are notes. In addition to the inspection required in 213, 233, each track ownership will conduct an internal rail inspection sufficient maintains for the failure raised for the per rail inspection segment according with paragraph A with a 12-month period determine the track owner calculated 45 days into the prior. These rates shall not include service failure if the curve of the rail has replaced through the rail relay since the time of the service failure of the rail, even the repair service failure defective is not considered relayed rail, but the service failure of the rate shall not exceed 0.1 service failure per year mile on the tracks class of the class 4 and 5, 0.09 service failure of the per year per mile of the tracks 3, 4, and 5 of the carries regularly scheduled passenger train that has material route, 0.08 service failure per year per mile for the track class 3, 4, and 5 tracks shall carries regular scheduled passenger trains and hazardous material routes. For track owners, guidance. For track owners with access to the sophisticated self-scheduling algorithm, determined testing frequency, FRA has posted the algorithm program designed the Volp Center FRA website, fra.gov. Continuous welded regulations, inspection rail. Each rail inspection segment should be designated by the track owner not more than March 25th, 2014. Track of the Class 4 and 5 of the track of the Class 3 track carry with regularly scheduled passenger train hazard material as used to determine the milepost limit for individual rail inspection frequency. Change the designation rail inspection segment of the travel to the segment with the pursuant of the section of the track owner submitted with a different and detailed request with the FRA, Associated FRA Administrator, Rail Safety Chief, Safety Officer, Associated Administrator. 30 days receive of the submission. FRA will review the request. The FRA will approve, the disapprove, the continue to approve, the submit with the request, the provide with the written notice of determination. Track owner's existing designation shall remain in effect with the track owner, with the new designated approved with the conditional approved with the FRA. Track owner shall, upon receipt of the FRA approval, the conditional approval of the job of the designation effective with the track owner shall provide with the writing FRA with an effective railroad employee with effective date. FRA test segment information sheet. Internal rail inspection class 4 and 5 and track with class 3 track regular scheduled passenger trains or that has the material of the route shall not exceed the time interval of 370 days between the inspection and the tonnage interval of 300 million gross tons between inspection, whichever is shorter. Internal rail inspection class 3 track that has not that is without regularly scheduled passenger train and not hazard material must be inspected at least once each calendar year, no more than 18 months between inspection, at least once every 30 million gross tons, whichever the interval is longer, but in no case the May inspection be more than 5 years apart. Internal rail inspection class 4 and 5 track class 3 track regular scheduled passenger train that has material route which will not exceed the time interval of 370 days between the inspection, tonnage interval of 300 million gross tons of between the inspection, whichever is shorter. On class 3 track passengers do not your tonnage numbers do not start over. Class track 3 passenger do not operate such that the search is made at least every 300 million gross tons once a year should intervals is longer. The paragraph A is applicable January 1st, 1999. Any rail used a replacement plug rail in a track with required for the test and according with the section must have been tested internal rail flow. The track owner must be able to verify that the plug rail has not accumulated more than a total of 300 million gross tons previous to the new location unless the internal rail flow does before the next step of the railroad required by the section performer. If the rail plug is not compliant with the paragraph C1 and 2 for the section is used January for January 24th, 2014 train over the rail must not exceed class 2 speed for the rail test in accordance with this section. Alright, inspection of rail 213 to 237D. If the service failure rate with the target identified in paragraph A section was not achieved, the track owner must inform the FRA in fact within 45 days at the end of the defined 12-month period in which the performance target exceeded. In addition, the owner may provide with the FRA explanation as well that the performance target was not achieved and provide remedial action plan. If the performance target rate is not met within 2 consecutive years within the area from the greatest number of the failure of occurring, either the inspection tonnage interval between the tests must be reduced to 10 million gross tons. Class of the track must be reduced to class 2 until the target surface failure is achieved. In case where the signal surface failure of the cavalry of the applicable surface failure rate designated in paragraph A of the section surface failure rate of the considered with the comply with the paragraph A section unless the second such a failure occur with the designated 12-month period. The purpose of the paragraph D2 period begins no earlier than January 24, 2014. Each defective rail shall have marked highly visible marking on both the side of the web base, except for the side of the web and inaccessible because of the permanent failure of the high visible marking shall be placed on the axis of the head of the rail. Inspection equipment shall be capable of detecting defects in joint bars in the area enclosed and by the joint. Inspection equipment technology and equipment continues to improve. The example show the vision system mounted on an ultrasonic test vehicle. If the qualified rail defect, the defective equipment operator determines a valid search of the internal defects cannot make it over the particular length of the track, the particular length of the track may not be considered internally inspected under paragraphs A and C of this section. If the valid search for the internal defects cannot be conducted with the track ownership before the expiration of the time and attendance for the paragraphs A and C of the section, conduct valid search for the internal defects to reduce the operating speed of the maximum 25 miles an hour until the search for the time of the valid search has been made. Place of the rail that has not been inspected. The person assigned by the operator of the rail defect with the detection equipment must be a qualified operator defined with the 213-238 with a demonstrated the proficiency of the rail flaw and detection process for each of the type of equipment the operator is assigned. As used in this section, has material route, meaning for the track, any of the class over the million, over the 10,000 car load, with the intermediate portable tank car load hazardous material defined in Title 49 CFR 171.8. Travel over the period of 1 year, class 3 and 4 or 5, track over the minimum of 4,000 car load with the intermediate portable tank car hazardous material specified in the Title 49 172.820. Travel a period of time 1 year. Alright, definition of plug rail means the length of the rail that has been removed with one track and location stored for the future load for the replacement and another location stored for the failure, meaning for the broken rail occurring for the cause of the determined to be the compound fissure, transverse or fissure, detailed fracture, vertical split head. Valid search may the continuous inspection with the internal rail deflects wherever the equipment is performed with the intent of the equipment to respond with interpreted with the qualified operator defined in 213-238. Qualified operator each provide rail flaw detection shall have a documented training program placed for the shall be identified with the type of the rail flaw detection equipment which for the equipment operated with the employee with the have received the training qualified provided rail flaw detection may be with the track owner. The track owner shall not utilize the provided rail flaw detection foils comply with the requirements for the paragraph. Qualified operator shall be trained and shall have the written authorized with the employee track owner and with the railroad employer to conduct the valid search for the internal rail defects of the utilizing specific type of equipment of which he or she is authorized and qualified to operate, determine the selection of equipment is performing intended to the equipment to respond with the institute of the appropriate action of the according to the employers to proceed with the instruction. Determine how each of the valid search for the internal rail defect with the units throughout the areas inspect whether it has not been compromised due to the environmental contamination, relative condition, the equipment malfunction. The operator must have the receive the training according with the documented training program minimum with 160 hours of the rail flaw detection experience with the direct supervision qualified operator with the flaw detection equipment. The manufacturer representative of the operator must have the demonstrated the proficiency of the rail defect detection process, including the equipment utilized prior to the internal initial qualification authorization of the employer for each type of equipment. Each employer shall reevaluate the qualification and or administer the necessary for the recurrent training with the operator with determined in accordance with the employer documented with the program with the real evaluation process which shall require that the employee successfully complete the required examination and demonstrate proficiency to the employer on the specific equipment type that to be operated proficiencies may be determined in this periodic review of the test data submitted by the operator. Each employer qualified operator maintain written electronic records of each qualification effect with each of the records shall include the name of the employee with the equipment at which for the qualification apply with the date of the qualification date with the most recent reevaluation, if any. Yeah, so for the Union Pacific Railroad qualified operator authorization. If an employee has demonstrated proficiency of the operation flaw detection, equivalent to prior with January 24, 2014, deemed with a qualified operator regardless of the previous training program with the employees qualified such for the operator was subject with the paragraph D of this section. Records concerning the qualification operators include a copy of the equipment that specifically trained with the program material of the record examination demonstrating the proficiency records of the authorization records shall be kept at the location of the designated by the employer available the inspection copying with the during the FRA during regular business hours. FRA state with the art test vehicle. In the event of fire, flood, surface storm, and the other occurrence that might have damage to track, with special inspection shall be made with the track involved with the possible, with the occurrence of the possible before the operation of any of the track over the track. Each owner track which a part applies shall keep the record each of the inspection required with a form on the track under the subpart. Each record inspected under the 213.4 with expected track 213.119 continuous weld and 213.223 inspection 213.235 switch and cross inspection shall be one prepared on the day of inspection made by the person inspecting made the inspection specify the track inspection sign 3 coordinate record shall specify the track inspection 4 the date inspection 5 the location any of the deviation requirement above the part 7 the remedial action taken by the person making the inspection owner shall designate the location with the original record maintained with at least 1 year of the inspection of the covered by the record owner shall designate one location within 100 miles each of the state with the conduct of the operations. Copy of the record shall apply with the operations of the maintainment and conviewed by every 10 days notice for the Federal Railroad Administration. Records an internal rail inspection required within 213-237 shall specify the date with the inspection track inspection, including beginning with the endpoint location, type of the defect found under 213-113, set of the defect found under 213-113, if it is not removed prior to the train movement, initial remedial action taken with the date thereof with the location aimed with the track not tested pursuant to 213-237G. Our track owner shall retain the rail inspection record under paragraph C of this section at least 2 years after the inspection for 1 year after the initial remedial action. Track owner shall maintain records sufficient to demonstrate the meaning of the community for the safe service failure rate with all track segments subject to the requirements of the 213-237A for the purpose of determining complying with the applicable service failure with the rate target. 213-241E draft guidance of the railroad asks for the FRA requests the records for the rail inspection demonstrate complying with the record test for the frequency of the made with the designated by the FRA rail integrity specialist with the railroad within the designated with the person organization rail integrity specialist the content of the requesting record with the rail inspection. FRA agree with the suggested approach would be in an effective way with the obtained inspection record with the FRA until the adopt the approach through the guidance of the FRA track with the safety compliance guide manual. Each track owner required to keep an inspection record then under the section to make with the records available to the inspection by a copy of the FRA request. For the purpose of complying with the requirements of the section on the track, I will remain named with the transfer of the record with the electronic transmission store with the retrieval provided with the electronic system designed with the integrity each of the record maintained with the appropriate level of security, such as recognition of electronic signature and other means uniquely identified with the initiating purpose of the author of the record with no two persons shall have the same electronic identity. Electronic storage each record shall with the initiated person make with the inspection within 24 hours following the completion of the inspection. Electronic system will ensure each record cannot be modified in any way with the placer or any of the record transmitted to the store with any of the amendment of the record electronically stored with the records which amends each of the amendment of the record shall be uniquely identified with the person making the amendment of the electronic system shall be provided with the maintenance inspection records that originally submitted without corruption with lost data. Paper copies of the electronic records of the amendments to these records shall be necessary for the document. Compliance of the part shall be available to inspection and comply with the FRA location specified in paragraph B of the section. Track inspection records shall be kept available to the person performed by the inspection and to the person performing subsequent inspection. 213-241 inspection record. The job is not finished till the paperwork is done. Summary fitted register Title 49 CFR 213 track safety standards approving the rail integrity final rule summary code federal regulation appendix A speed chart. And then the appendixes. We'll cut the tape there. Testing.